This is the ultimate wilderness rucksack system. Now, rubbish! This is the ultimate wilderness survival carry system. Well, you're both talking pish. This is the only carry system you need for the wild and for life. How about we combine the best of all three to make the ultimate wilderness rucksack system inspired by history? Hello folks, and welcome to the final video in this mini-series where I'm looking at the essential pyramid of learning for the survivor from the book The SCS Survival Handbook, written by John Lofty Wiseman. In the first video in this series, I looked at the base of the pyramid, the most important thing, the will to live. In last month's video, I went a step up in the pyramid to look at knowledge. In this video, we've reached the peak of the pyramid and we will be talking about kit. Now, I've always found a real joy in a well put together rucksack or carry system, as to me it's the physical representation of what we actually need to meet our basic needs. I always keep this rucksack packed and ready to go so I can just grab it and leave, whether that's for a day hike or multi-day expedition. And really all I need to do is swap out some clothes and some food depending on how long I'm going. And even with 3 days worth of food, I can keep this rucksack under 10 kilograms. Also, by adding a journal and a musical instrument, this rucksack has sort of turned into my coping strategy against the madness of the modern world. Every time I feel like I need to escape the collective insanity of society, I can just grab the rucksack and head to the nearest nature spot, tune into the reality of the natural world, journal down thoughts and feelings, practice a bit of bushcraft, and then come home much more clear-headed and grounded. I call this rucksack the Resilience Rucksack System, and over on Resilient Roots I'll show you exactly how to put one together and use it item by item. Folks on the community page are then sharing the rucksack and sharing their adventures they're using it on. I also have a free course on how to use my journaling system, which you can find on my website tomlanghorn.com. Now, to keep this video digestible for YouTube, I'm not going to go into every single item in the rucksack, but I am going to share my general mentality towards the rucksack system and the categories of kit that 90% never leave the rucksack. I'll also share a bit of the pros and cons I've found between 21st century kit and historical kit, and how I've kind of found myself wearing and using a mixture of both. Let's first start with a quote of what Wiseman has to say about kit. Quote, "At the tip of the pyramid of learning is kit. We keep this to a minimum and have thorough knowledge of its uses and capabilities. There are essential items that you should never leave home without, like survival tin, knife, compass, and radio/phone. Wiseman then goes on in the book to discuss various sorts of kits, and it's mainly focused on kit to help you survive an emergency and get rescued. I'm mainly interested in wilderness living, i.e. the kit that allows you to stay in the wild rather than necessarily be rescued from it. But the part of the quote I want to focus on is this: we keep this kit to a minimum and have thorough knowledge of its uses and capabilities. Now, I believe we can do this by applying three principles. 1, the best survival equipment is the stuff that you happen to have on you when you need it the most. 2, the more you have that kit on you, the more likely you're going to practice. And 3, the more you practice, the more you know, and the more you know, the less you need. And if you apply that round and round and round, this is how we can learn to keep our kit to a minimum. And this is where I feel we can learn a lot from history. Because if you look at the 17th century Highlanders and beyond, there was no such thing as bushcraft or wilderness living skills. It was just called life. And the necessities of life, of what people could afford and had access to, can teach us a lot about really simplifying our kit to what we actually need. So now I want to give a general overview of comparing 21st century kit with 17th century kit, or really kit before plastics. Now, in terms of being lightweight, comfortable, effective, especially in harsh weather conditions and water filtration systems, 21st century kit wins hands down. No argument there. You could also argue that 21st century kit is more accessible and affordable to the average person. So that's why my resilient ruck system is based off modern equipment. However, 21st century kit can often be quite plasticky and gimmicky and gadgety. It often doesn't last very long, it doesn't hold up very well, especially for living out in the wild. It's often not very breathable, the clothing. It gets smelly. You could argue that it's not very environmentally friendly in its production and its disposal. And the gadgetiness of 21st century kit, you can easily end up packing more stuff than you actually need. Now, with the more historical kit, the heavy duty wool, linen, animal skins and leather, yes, it's heavier, it's bulkier, it's not as effective in harsh weather conditions, especially wind and rain. However, there's something about wilderness living, i.e. being in the wild for a long time, that I think it's actually better. It's more breathable. It doesn't smell as much when you've been wearing it for a long time. It holds up better when you're hanging around fires a lot, where fires will easily burn holes in all your modern kit. You could argue it's better for the environment in its production and its disposal. And it also just connects you more to nature rather than wrapping yourself in a plastic bubble. You're wearing these organic materials, and especially if you make some of the kit yourself, then it also connects you to the ancestral living skills, which then arguably makes you more self-reliant in the long run. So I would say start with 21st century equipment, and as I'll say, there is some 21st century kit that is just downright safer to use, but as you learn, it can be fun to start integrating this more historical kit, and especially in the more wilderness living, in the more base camp situation, you can apply the dream cycle, which I talked about in the previous video, and start integrating historical kit into your rucksack system. So now I'll share the different categories of kit that you can see in peoples all around the world and ages, and that really never leave my rucksack, and I'll show you the sort of balance of 21st century and old school kit that end up in my rucksack. Now, in my previous video, I mentioned Dave Canterbury's 10 C's of survivability, and I think that's a fantastic way of categorizing kit. Highly recommend Dave Canterbury's books and channel. But in order to be different, and also looking at what mainly is in my rucksack, I've come up with my own way of categorizing kit, which I'm going to call the 9 B's of basic kit, or the These are blade, burn, blankets, bottles, bind, brightness, breakfast, bearing, and batter. So first of all, blades. Cutting tools have been one of the most important things for human advancement, so much so that we actually categorize different stages of history in that technological of cutting tools, i.e. the Stone Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age. The best knife, in my opinion, in the UK, where knife carry laws are really strict, is just a simple folding Swiss Army knife, right? If you learn how to use that and if you're careful with it, it will do everything you need it to do. I know people will be getting angry at me in the comments, but that's, to me, is the best survival knife. Simple Swiss Army knife. My second thing, maybe because I'm a bit biased, is my handmade custom Found Abbey Do survival ski and do. I will eventually get around to making more of these. Subscribe to my email list if you're interested, but that's my 2 cutting tools that are always in my kit. But I do also like always having a bit of flint on me, not only for getting fires, but it's quite fun to start practicing and yeah, just trying out cutting things and doing bushcraft with the most ancient of human technologies. Next, burn. Again, the thing that's attached to my Swiss Army knife is a lighter. I like these refillable clipper ones. I also always have a ferro rod in my kit. And then, of course, in my historical kit, I'm always practicing with old school flint and steels. And my favorite friction fire is the bowl drill friction fire. So I often have stuff for that as well. Next is blankets, which is essentially anything that keeps you warm, either when you're out and about or when you're sleeping. Now, I've done many videos on the Great Kilt, and I am an absolute obsessed with a good wool blanket because it shows that our ancestors had one item that they were both wearing and using to sleep in. However, when you spent plenty of time freezing your nips off in historical equipment, it does really make you appreciate the technological advancement of lightweight waterproof jackets and puffers and things like that. And in many situations, this is actually essential for staying safe, especially in really cold, windy weather. So I've kind of ended up with a bit of both. I always have a lightweight waterproof jacket and a puffer in my kit most of the time, even when I'm doing historical expeditions, just as an emergency. And after that, I like kit that's multifunctional, something that you can both wear and sleep in. So in a modern perspective, ponchos, waterproof poncho and a poncho liner are a fantastic combo. And on Resilient Roots, I base the shelter system on a lightweight poncho multifunctional shelter system. Lightweight modern camping mats are also fantastic, but they're just a bit plasticky and they kind of separate you from the lovely earth. So sometimes I prefer an animal skin, but sometimes what I love to do is combine the modern poncho and poncho liner with the great kilt and a animal skin to make the ultimate blanket combo. Next is bottles, essentially anything that allows you to carry, cook and purify water. Now, although some historical leather bottles and stuff are cool to use, most of the time I am sticking with the 21st century. My favourite combo is just a simple stainless steel nesting cup, and my favourite modern water filtration system is the Grail bottle. This is by far the best water filtration system I've ever used. And again, I will often take that on historical journeys just as a backup. And it fits really nicely in that cup. And that's all you really need in most situations. Next, bind, i.e. cordage. Once you've cut things to the size you want with your cutting tool or with your blade, it's handy to be able to tie it back together again into the things you want. I like to carry both modern cordage and you could say historical or natural fiber cordage. Something like paracord is fantastic for things that you want to be strong and to last and to not stretch and relax with temperature and moisture. But if you drop it or if you lease it up, then it just doesn't rot, and it's horrible coming to places where people have been practicing bushcraft and you find bits of paracord everywhere. So it's really nice to have some natural cordage on you. You can use it for starting fires. Also, it's great for bushcrafting and things, and if you drop it, it's no big deal. It's going to rot back into the earth. It's also great learning how to make cordage, and I've got a video on how to make nettle cordage. Next is brightness, i.e. something to make you see in the dark, a torch or a head torch. When you spend a lot of time trying to do something full historical and wandering around in the dark, it makes you really appreciate a head torch. This is an incredible piece of technology. Really important bit of kit, a very underrated bit of kit. However, it is also good to know the historical ways of lighting and seeing your way. And again, I have a past video showing all the different methods that Highlanders use to lit their homes. So I've always got a piece of pine resin stick, a bit of fat wood as a backup, also for fire lighting. Next is breakfast. Now, all I mean is having some basic food in your kit all the time. Now, of course, humans can go a long time without food, but it's pretty miserable, and it's good to keep your brain working. The reason why I said breakfast, not only because it begins with B, but breakfast comes from break fast. So it kind of shows that it's about carrying minimal food, that we're just eating sparingly, kind of breaking our fast. My favorite stuff to carry is my Found Abbey Bannock's, which is my survival rations inspired from historical rations. Again, I've got a video on it, but they're just big calorie-rich biscuits that last a long time. You can nibble on them, you can put them in a stew. I usually carry them in these beeswax wrappers, but also something like oat cakes or pemmican, jerky, chocolate, things like that. Always carry something to break your fast. Next is a bearing, i.e. a compass, something that allows you to walk in a straight line. Now, this is especially important when you're traveling in remote areas. A smartphone can do a lot these days, but it relies on battery, and the most useful thing your phone can do is call from rescue if shit hits the fan. So learn how to use a map and compass. I've got some lessons on resilient routes and how to use it, and I've also got a video in the works on how Highlanders navigated back in the day. So subscribe so you don't miss out on that video. Should be coming out this year. And finally, bata. What does bata mean? It's Gaelic for stick, where we get the word bat, baton. It's all related. A good stick. On a good day, a walking aid, and a bad day, a whacking aid. I've got a full playlist on why I love a stick so much. Get yourself a stick. Yup. Now I could talk about different sorts of kits and the pros and cons of different situations all day long, and I go into more detail over in Resilient Routes, but I hope you enjoyed this video as a general overview on how you can create the ultimate rucksack that balances the pros of modern kit with the magic of old school kit, so you can go out and become a forest creature. Thank you so much for your attention, folks. Thank you to everyone who supports me on the Patreon page and makes this channel possible. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in another video very soon. Cheery bye. Cheery bye.